I am in my real life. But that's what I love about acting. I get to live inside characters very different than myself. But every time I got one of these...
Feliz Navidad. Christmas has come early. Hello, my friend, it's Perez, the queen of all media, the original influencer, and your #1 source for everything It Ends With Us. This is a 2-in-1 special, because we've just uncovered the identity of Justin Baldoni's new accuser, and a trove of newly unsealed deposition transcripts that expose shocking claims of extortion and more. Before we dive in, I want to wish you all a very Merry Christmas. Now let's get to the big story. Who accused Justin Baldoni of being verbally abusive? We finally have the answer. Earlier this week, I told you that Judge Lyman ruled the identity of the person who submitted a declaration supporting the so-called Queen of misrepresentations in her claim for damages under California Rule 47. 1. Better, known as the SH Law, had to be made public due to overwhelming public interest. And honestly, the judge made the right call. The name is now out. Writer and director Claire Ayub. Claire Ayub is the filmmaker behind Empire Waste, a project produced by Justin Baldoni's company, Wayfarer Studios. In her declaration, Ayub stated that during her work on the film, she experienced repeated negative interactions with Baldoni and his team, which included what she described as verbal abuse from Baldoni himself. However, she did not specify what that verbal abuse entailed. It's important to note that Ayub volunteered this information to Amber Lively on her own accord, a detail Judge Lyman highlighted when deciding to make her identity public. In his ruling, he pointed out that Ayub had inserted herself into the ongoing controversy voluntarily, making her statements a matter of public interest. Ayub also mentioned in her declaration that Empire Waste was scheduled for release in the fall of 2024 after the drama surrounding It Ends With Us had already erupted. She wrote that in August of that year, due to her negative experiences with Baldoni and the continued media attention around him and the film, she requested that he not be involved in Empire Waste's marketing or publicity. Wayfarer Studios, she said, agreed to her request. But less than a week after that agreement, Ayub claimed she was contacted by the assistant to Steve Sarowitz, Wayfarer's co-founder and co-chairman, to arrange a meeting between her and Sarowitz, signaling that there was more unfolding behind the scenes. According to Ayub's declaration, Steve Sarowitz's assistant reached out to schedule a meeting but did not specify the reason for it. Ayub stated she feared the meeting might concern her recent request to exclude Baldoni from Empire Waste's marketing and publicity efforts. Worried that Sarowitz might pressure her to reverse that decision, she chose to record their conversation. However, it's unclear whether Sarowitz was aware of or consented to being recorded. Ayub signed her declaration in Connecticut, which is likely where she resides. Sarowitz lives in Illinois, and Wayfarer Studios operates out of California, all 3 states with laws prohibiting the recording of private conversations without the consent of all parties involved. It's also worth noting that Ayub's declaration is largely irrelevant to the ongoing It Ends With Us case. Her statements have no direct connection to the film or to Suella No-Chill's request for attorney's fees. Even if her claims about Baldoni's alleged verbal abuse were true, the details remain unverified, and the nature of those interactions is still unknown. Because of that, her testimony would not be admissible in court. What will matter, however, are the depositions from 3 key witnesses who were recently questioned under oath. And that's where things start to get very interesting. 3 newly released deposition excerpts have just been made public, and the first one comes from Vivian Baker, the makeup artist who worked on It Ends With Us. During questioning by attorney Ellen Goff, Baker was asked, "You described for us in response to Ms. Bender's question several incidents that you characterized, I believe, as inappropriate. Did all of those incidents occur during the first phase of filming?" Baker replied simply, "That would be correct." And that's it. That's all we know. No context, no explanation, no details about what those inappropriate incidents were. It's frustrating, to say the least. We're left completely in the dark about what actually happened or who was involved. Still, I'm keeping an open mind. If this case does go to trial and against expectations, Taylor Swift's friend allegedly ends up being proven right, I'll be the first to say, I got it wrong and I'm sorry. But based on what we've seen so far, the receipts, the proof, the timeline, the screenshots, and most importantly, the sworn testimony from Baldoni's former agent at William Morris, I still believe Baldoni's version of events holds up. We'll get to that major revelation in a moment. But before we do, let's unpack the testimony of Warren Zavala, Blake Lively's longtime agent at WME, the same agency that dropped Justin Baldoni last year. Zavala's deposition provides one of the clearest windows into what was happening behind the scenes of It Ends With Us, both during filming and after the cameras stopped rolling. As someone who has represented countless Hollywood stars, Zavala is no stranger to on-set dynamics, and his words carry weight. If anyone outside the production team would know how Lively was feeling, it would be him. During questioning, attorney Ellen Goff began with a few simple questions to set the stage. "Do you know where the movie was filmed?" she asked. "Yes," Zavala replied. "Where?" Then came, "Were you ever on set during filming?" To which he responded, "I was." When asked how frequently, he added, "I went twice, which is one more time than I've ever gone to any set in 24 years. That alone shows how significant this project must have been for him to break his own professional routine. Ellen then shifted to the heart of the matter. "Are you aware of any incidents that made Ms. Lively uncomfortable during the second phase of filming?" Zavala answered firmly, "No." He clarified that his second visit to the set took place during that very phase, and that, from everything he saw, production appeared smooth and professional. "Yes, correct," he confirmed when asked to verify that nothing seemed out of order. But the tone of his testimony shifted when Ellen pressed further. "Did you personally hear any complaints from Ms. Lively during the second phase of filming?" "Yes," Zavala admitted. He explained that the complaints didn't emerge during filming itself, but rather later, during post-production, specifically surrounding a test screening of a version of the film that Lively apparently hadn't been informed about. This unexpected cut triggered frustration and sparked creative tension between her and Baldoni. When questioned about whether there were any additional complaints, Zavala acknowledged that there were definitely issues related to her interactions and collaboration with Justin during the film's editing stage. He described the dynamic as increasingly strained, with creative disagreements escalating into a power struggle over the film's final vision. According to his account, Lively became deeply involved in the post-production process, so much so that she effectively took control. What started as collaboration evolved into what Zavala characterized as an outright takeover. In his words, Blake Lively didn't just weigh in on editing choices. She hijacked the film, assuming command over the creative direction and reshaping the final cut in her image. This revelation paints a picture not only of behind-the-scenes discord, but also of two strong-willed artists clashing over ownership, authority, and artistic integrity. A battle that may have helped ignite the firestorm now engulfing both their reputations. That's not collaboration, that's control. And sadly, that's all we have from that deposition. But don't worry, I saved the most explosive one for last. As the saying goes, sometimes the snow comes down in June, and this final transcript is pure drama. This one features Danny Greenberg, Justin Baldoni's former agent at WME, and he did not hold back. During his deposition, once again led by the ever-persistent Ellen Goff, Greenberg opened up about his text exchanges with Baldoni, offering rare insight into the emotional and professional chaos surrounding the It Ends With Us fallout. Ellen began by reading a text from Greenberg to Baldoni aloud. "Yep, and I'm there to have your back. And remind you, not that you need me to, that you are the man and you're gonna crush this." Greenberg confirmed the message, but noted that these excerpts were brief and stripped of context, which left a lot of room for interpretation. Then the conversation took a darker turn, into the topic of extortion. It appeared that Greenberg and Baldoni had been discussing ongoing tension with the film's distributor, Sony, and the situation involving Blake Lively. Ellen pressed further, asking, "At the time you sent these suggested letters to Sony, had you had discussions with anyone at Sony about Ms. Lively's effective attempts at extortion?" Greenberg replied, "I had ongoing conversations with Ann Gianetti, the executive on the project, about the behavior that Blake was displaying along the way." He explained that at that point in time, the dispute centered around the film's premiere. Lively, he said, did not want Baldoni to attend the event. After some negotiation, she eventually relented, but only under the bizarre condition that he could attend if he stayed in the basement during the screening. Ellen continued to challenge Greenberg, pointing out how carefully worded his communications had been. "You were choosing your words very carefully, weren't you?" she asked. Greenberg replied, "I don't remember my state of mind when I wrote this letter." Ellen pushed again. "Is it your practice to choose your words carefully when conveying an important message?" "I do my best," Greenberg answered. Then came the key exchange. Ellen said, "And you used the word extortion in this chat, suggesting to Mr. Baldoni what he might write to Sony, correct?" Greenberg confirmed, "Yes, it's in the text." Ellen followed up, "That's a pretty strong word, isn't it?" To which Greenberg responded simply but tellingly, "It felt appropriate at the moment." That single phrase, "it felt appropriate," says a lot. It suggests that, in the heat of the conflict, Baldoni's camp genuinely believed that Lively's actions, her influence over the premiere, and her behind-the-scenes maneuvers were crossing ethical lines. Whether or not the legal system agrees remains to be seen, but one thing is clear: these depositions are pulling back the curtain on a Hollywood feud that's far messier, more personal and more consequential than anyone first realized. Ellen pressed on, ever sharp and methodical. "You anticipated my next question." "Thank you," she said before reading more of the message aloud. Then you go on to say, "But don't, in any way, put Sony on the defensive or indict them. If you can, be contrite in some capacity, very briefly acknowledging that the two of you had your moments, where she dissected your energy, word choice, and personality frequently, which led to mutual discomfort working together. Then you can add something like, not everyone gets along, not all personalities are compatible." She paused, then continued. "Now, when you were suggesting to Mr. Baldoni that he write something to Sony, saying other people have disagreements or to downplay the tension, did you believe Mr. Baldoni was taking Ms. Lively's conduct too seriously?" Greenberg hesitated. "I'm not really following the question," he said carefully. "Okay, I'll withdraw it," Ellen replied. But she immediately followed up, zeroing in again. "You used the word extortion, correct?" "Yes," confirmed Baldoni's former agent. Ellen didn't let go. "Sounds to me like at the time of this chat, July 26, 2024, you believed it was more than just ordinary incompatibility between Mr. Baldoni and Ms. Lively. Is that a fair statement?" Greenberg replied, "I think my use of the word extortion there was referencing just the cumulative behavior that the studio, Wayfarer, and Justin were all having to manage. That's why I used the word." Ellen nodded slowly. "That would be more than just a disagreement between two personalities, wouldn't it, Mr. Greenberg?" He sighed. "Well," he said, "their personalities, I think the text speaks for itself. They were not getting along. I was just suggesting to Justin that he be..." And that's where the transcript ends. No more context, no more clues, just silence and speculation. At that point, my brain was spinning. I had to take a moment to simmer down because, wow. Between the makeup artist's cryptic comments, the agent's coded language, and the hints of behind-the-scenes power plays, this saga is turning into a real-life Hollywood thriller. I'm dying to know what those so-called inappropriate incidents were, especially since we all know the self-proclaimed queen of misrepresentation has a long history of living up to that title. But as always, I'll keep my mind open and my eyes on the evidence. In this town, stories shift fast, and truth has a funny way of revealing itself. So until more is unsealed, I'll keep digging, reading, watching, and waiting to decide for myself. And speaking of staying informed, if you want the full tea, unedited, uncensored, and unapologetic, head over to my website. It's free, it's fabulous, and it helps support me, my kids, and my mom. Just go to PerezHilton.com. That's P to the E to the R to the E to the Z to the H to the I to the L to the T to the O to the N.com every day throughout the day for updates that keep you both informed and entertained. Plus, if you love what I do, I've got personalized Cameo videos available right now at Cameo. Calm my name. The perfect gift for fans, friends, or yourself. And don't forget my exclusive weekly podcast episodes over on Patreon. My Name, where Team Truth gets the inside scoop before anyone else. Oh, and if you want to show some love for Team Truth, grab your Wear Your Florals merch and other official goodies at Buy Pop Stuff. If you watched until the very end, you are a superstar. The top 1%. Thank you for being here, for thinking critically, and for staying unsealed. Hit that like button, share this video, and comment unsealed below if you believe transparency matters. We've learned a lot today, and yet the more we uncover, the more questions arise. Is your brain spinning as much as mine? What's your takeaway? What do you think is really going on here? Let's break it all down in the comments. Stay curious, stay vocal, and most of all, stay unsealed. Most of all, stay unsealed.